The night was quiet on the lonely human colony. The stars above were sharp and cold, and the forest around the settlement whispered with strange sounds. Most people locked their doors when the sun went down, because everyone knew the aliens walked in the dark. Inside one small room, a young human man named Daniel sat on his narrow bed. He tried to read an old book, but his hands shook every evening he waited, and every evening he hoped it would not happen again. Yet deep inside he already knew it would. The first time it had happened, he thought it was a dream. He had been lying in bed half asleep when the air grew cold and the shadows moved. He opened his eyes and saw her, tall, pale and strange, her eyes glowing faintly like soft silver lamps. She was not like the other aliens who attacked humans and destroyed machines, no. This one was different. Her face looked young, almost like a girl, but not human at all. Her skin shimmered as if made of glass in moonlight. Her long hands reached toward him, and before he could scream, she picked him up. Daniel had thought that was the end. He thought she would break him in half, but she did not. Instead, she cradled him in her arms like a doll. Like a toy, she did not speak. She did not hurt him. She only sat on the floor and held him against her chest, as if that was all she wanted. His heart had raced so fast he could hardly breathe. He wanted to fight, to shout, to run, but her grip was gentle, yet unbreakable. He could not move. He could only stare at her glowing eyes and wait. Minutes passed like hours. She never blinked, never moved, only swayed a little like a mother calming a child. When the first light of morning came through the window, she simply stood, placed him back on the bed, and walked away into the forest, leaving him trembling and speechless. That was the first night, and after that it happened again. Every single night, always the same. When the moon rose, she came, silent as a shadow, strong as steel. She picked him up like a toy and held him until dawn. At first, Daniel thought no one would believe him. He tried to keep it secret, but the colony was small. People noticed his pale face and tired eyes. Whispers spread. Some laughed and said he had gone mad. Others grew afraid and called him cursed. Still, he could not stop it. He could not lock her out. She always found a way in. No wall or door could keep her away. She was patient, and she was watching on this night. As Daniel sat on his bed, he heard it again. The soft hum in the air. The strange silence that came before she appeared. His candle flickered. The window shivered, though no wind touched it. His breath caught in his throat. She stepped inside, moving as if the walls did not exist, her glowing eyes fixed on him, her tall frame bending slightly to fit under the roof. Daniel's book fell from his hand. He could only whisper, "Not again," but she did not answer. She never did. Her long fingers reached for him. He wanted to run, but his legs froze. He wanted to call for help, but his voice failed. The next moment, he was weightless, lifted easily into her arms. Like he was no more than a child's toy. Daniel's body trembled, but she held him close. Her strange chest rising and falling with a rhythm not quite human. He could hear a sound like distant waves inside her. Soft and endless, her head tilted, studying him as if trying to read his thoughts. Outside, the forest howled with alien cries. Shadows moved beyond the settlement, but none came near his room. It was as if her presence kept them away. Daniel realized it then. She was protecting him even as she trapped him. Time slowed. He tried to keep his eyes open, but the steady sway of her body pulled him into half-sleep. He felt small, helpless, but also strangely safe. It was a feeling that confused him, fear mixed with calm, danger mixed with comfort. When dawn touched the window, her eyes dimmed. She stood silently, placed him back on the bed, and turned toward the door. Daniel forced himself to whisper, "Why me?" But she never spoke. She only looked at him one last time, and then walked into the light of morning. Daniel lay frozen on his bed, his body weak, his mind full of questions. Why did she come only for him? Why did she hold him like a toy? Why did she never harm him, and why, deep inside, did a small part of him wait for her to return? The first night had left him afraid, but as each night passed, a new feeling was born. Not just fear, but something else, something he could not name yet. And that feeling would soon change his life forever. The second week of her visits began, and Daniel could no longer tell the difference between nightmare and reality. Each night she came silent as smoke, and each night she lifted him into her arms. It should have been unbearable, yet something inside him began to change. At first, all he felt was fear. His heart would hammer, his skin would sweat, his mind screamed for escape, but his body stayed trapped in her gentle, unbreakable grip. Yet as the nights went on, Daniel noticed small details that made his fear hesitate. She never hurt him. Her arms were strong but soft. Her strange hands never squeezed too hard. She moved with care as if she was afraid of breaking him. Her silver eyes never glowed with hate, only with a strange calm, a strange sadness. Daniel remembered the other aliens, the ones that tore apart machines. Burned crops and killed settlers. They were wild, brutal, merciless. But she was not like them, no, she seemed almost fragile, even as she held him like a toy one evening, as she cradled him against her chest. Daniel dared to open his mouth. His voice was low, shaking. "Why are you here?" he whispered. "What do you want?" But she gave no answer. She only tilted her head, her eyes blinking slowly, as if she understood the sound but not the meaning. That small reaction sent a chill down his spine. She was not ignoring him, she was listening, maybe even trying to learn. And that thought made Daniel's fear twist into something new, curiosity. When morning came and she placed him back on the bed before vanishing into the forest, Daniel found himself sitting up instead of hiding under the blanket. His mind burned with questions. Who was she? Why him? Why every night? The colony noticed his change too. Whispers grew sharper. Some neighbors said he was cursed. Others said he was blessed. One old woman claimed the alien girl was marking him as her mate. Young workers laughed and called him a pet. None of them understood what it truly felt like. Daniel began to study her in secret. Not with books or machines, but with his eyes and his memory. He noticed the way her head tilted each time he moved, the way her chest made that wave-like sound, the way her grip shifted when he tried to struggle. Adjusting gently, never cruelly, she was learning, he was sure of it. Copying the way humans held children, the way humans comforted the weak. Daniel wondered if she had seen a mother holding a baby once, and decided to copy it, but why? On the 10th night, Daniel tested his theory. He forced himself not to shake when she lifted him. Instead of fighting, he relaxed. He even leaned against her chest. Her glowing eyes widened slightly, almost like surprise. Then her body swayed more slowly, more carefully. Daniel felt his heart beat differently. Not just fear this time, but something warmer, something confusing, he whispered again. "You don't want to hurt me, do you?" Still no answer. But her silver eyes softened, and that silence spoke louder than words. Days in the colony grew harder. Food was short. Machines kept breaking. And people were tired of living in fear. Daniel should have been tired too, but every night, even though he dreaded her arrival, a secret part of him waited. His fear no longer stood alone. Curiosity was now his shadow. One night during a heavy storm, the alien girl came as usual. The thunder shook the walls, rain crashed against the window, but when she held him, Daniel noticed something new. She trembled. Her strange skin flickered like light on water. She was afraid of the storm. For the first time, Daniel felt stronger than her, even though she could crush him in one hand. He whispered softly, "It's only thunder." His words carried no magic, yet she seemed to calm. Her trembling slowed. Her head rested slightly against his. That moment shook Daniel more than any fear. She was not only watching him, she was trusting him. She came not just to hold him, but to feel safe herself. The thought made his chest tighten, made his mind spin with dangerous ideas. If she needed him, what did that mean? If she trusted him, what would happen if he trusted her back by dawn? When she placed him down and vanished into the mist, Daniel sat on the bed wide awake. His fear had not gone, but his curiosity now roared louder than ever. He began to wait for nightfall with mixed feelings. Dread in his stomach, but also a strange pull in his heart. The alien girl was a mystery, a danger, but also a secret he wanted to uncover. For the colony, she was a threat. For Daniel, she was becoming something else, something he could not yet name. But every night brought him closer to the truth, and closer to a choice he would one day have to make. The fear was still there, yes, but now, curiosity had taken root, and curiosity is the beginning of change. The nights kept passing, and Daniel's fear no longer ruled him. Instead, a strange bond was quietly forming, one that he did not understand, one that no human had ever spoken of before. The alien girl came as always, silent and certain, her tall frame bending to step into his room, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She would lift him up as if he weighed nothing, hold him close, and sit for hours without a word. Yet now, Daniel began to notice something new. She responded to him not with words, but with actions. When he turned his head, she tilted hers. When he sighed, her chest rose with a soft sound. When he closed his eyes, she swayed more slowly. As if to lull him into sleep, she was mirroring him, learning from him, copying him. Daniel realized he was not only being held, he was being studied. But not like a scientist with a cold experiment. more like a child holding onto a secret toy, trying to understand it, trying to protect it. At first, the thought made him uneasy. He did not want to be treated like a doll. Yet the longer it went on, the more he noticed the way she changed. She was not cold anymore, she was gentle. She was almost human in the small things she did. One night, Daniel whispered softly, "Do you know my name?" Of course, there was no answer. But her glowing eyes blinked twice. Slowly, like she was thinking, Daniel tried again. "Daniel." He pressed his hand lightly on his chest. "My name is Daniel." Her head tilted, her hand touched her own chest. And for the first time, a sound came from her. Not words, not clear, but a low echo, almost like she was trying to copy him. Daniel froze, his heart skipped. She was trying to speak. The bond deepened from that night. She no longer just held him like a toy. She began to respond to his smallest actions. If he hummed softly, she would make the same sound. If he tapped his finger against her arm, she would copy it with her long hand. This was no longer only fear or curiosity. This was a strange bond growing between them. Something fragile and dangerous, but also impossible to ignore. Outside, the colony whispered about him more. Some people claimed the alien girl was using him. Others said she was preparing him for capture. A few said he was already lost. But Daniel could not explain to them what he felt. They had never seen her silver eyes soften. They had never heard her try to copy a human sound. One evening, the bond revealed itself in a way Daniel never expected. When she entered his room, she was slower. Her body flickered with faint cracks of light. She looked weaker, as if she had been hurt. Daniel's fear rose, but this time it was not for himself. It was for her. "Are you hurt?" he whispered, knowing she could not answer. But his voice was filled with concern. She looked at him. Her arms tightened just a little, and she made that wave-like hum from her chest. It was shakier than usual. Daniel realized she was not invincible, she was vulnerable. And yet she still came to him that night. He rested his hand gently on her glowing arm. He expected her to pull away, but instead she stilled, as if the touch surprised her. Then slowly she leaned her head closer, until her forehead touched his. Daniel's breath caught. His fear and curiosity melted into something else, something deeper, a connection that no words could explain. He did not know if it was friendship, or pity, or something far stranger, but it was real, and it bound them together in silence. When dawn came, she did not leave as quickly. She lingered, staring at him, her silver eyes dim but calm. Then she finally placed him on the bed and walked into the fading mist. That day, Daniel could not focus on anything. His hands shook when he tried to fix broken tools. His mind replayed the way her forehead touched his, the way her voice hum shook with weakness, the way her glowing body flickered like a dying star. He told himself he should be terrified. He told himself she was still an alien, still a danger, but deep down he knew the truth. He no longer feared her the same way. He had crossed a line. The bond was real, and it was growing. Each night that followed, the bond grew stronger. She no longer treated him like just a toy. She treated him like something important, like something she needed, and Daniel began to feel the same. He found himself waiting for her, not only out of fear, but out of a strange, unexplainable need. The colony could never know. They would never understand, but Daniel understood. He was no longer just the boy who was held by the alien girl. He was becoming the human who held her trust, and that truth would change everything. The strange bond had begun, and once such a bond exists, it cannot be broken easily. Not by fear, not by walls, not even by war. The nights grew colder, but Daniel no longer feared the darkness the way he once did. The alien girl still came every evening, silent as mist, steady as the moon, yet each visit began to feel less like an attack and more like a ritual, a secret habit only the two of them shared. Daniel noticed how precise she was. Her actions never changed too much. She would enter without a sound, lift him with care, and sit in the same corner of his small room. She always held him close, always swayed with a rhythm like waves, always stayed until dawn. It was not random. It was a pattern, a habit. The more Daniel watched her, the more he saw hidden details. Sometimes when she held him, her glowing eyes would close for a few moments, as if she was resting. Sometimes her long fingers would tap against his arm in strange patterns, almost like counting. Sometimes she would hum softly, not a song, but a broken echo of the sounds she had learned from him. Daniel began to think of her not just as an alien, but as a girl with strange needs, strange comforts. And the way she held him was not only for him, it was also for herself. She needed it, maybe more than he did. One night, he decided to test something. Instead of staying silent, He began to hum a tune he remembered from Earth, a lullaby his mother used to sing when he was a child. The alien girl froze for a moment, her silver eyes widened. Then she tilted her head and made a sound back. Not perfect, but close. She was trying to repeat it. Daniel's chest tightened. She was not only copying him, she was learning. She wanted to connect. He whispered, "You like this, don't you?" His voice cracked with wonder. She made the sound again, almost the same, and her swaying became softer, slower, more careful. The secret of her habit was slowly revealing itself. She was not only studying him, she was imitating him, absorbing human comfort the way a child absorbs the warmth of a fire. Outside the colony, fear and suspicion grew. Some settlers whispered that Daniel was cursed. Others believed he was chosen. A few thought he was lying. But Daniel no longer cared what they said, because he had discovered something they would never see. The alien girl's silence was not emptiness. It was learning. It was her way of building a bridge between two different worlds. One evening, when she held him, Daniel dared to push the bond further. He raised his hand slowly and touched her face. Her skin shimmered under his fingers like glass dipped in water. Cold but alive, she did not pull away. Instead, her silver eyes blinked slowly, almost like approval. He whispered, "You're not just holding me, are you?" His heart raced as he said it. "You're trying to understand." She made no words, but her head rested slightly against his hand. The gesture said more than any sentence could. Another night he noticed something else. Her glowing body dimmed when she entered, but brightened when she held him. The longer she kept him close, the stronger her light became. Daniel realized then. She was feeding on something, not his body, not his life, but his presence, his warmth, his humanity. The thought made his blood run cold, but at the same time it filled him with awe. She did not need to drain his strength or harm him. She only needed to hold him, to copy him, to mirror his life, and somehow it gave her power. Daniel lay awake one morning after she left, his mind tangled with fear and wonder. He whispered to himself, "She holds me like a toy, but maybe I am not the toy. Maybe I am the teacher." The next night proved it again. She entered as usual, but this time she began humming the lullaby before he did. Her voice was broken, uneven, but clear enough to be recognized. Daniel's throat tightened. She remembered. She had learned it. He felt his fear weaken even more, not vanish but shift. It was no longer the fear of being crushed. It was the fear of what this bond meant if she was learning to be human. What would happen when she learned too much? The colony would never understand. They would call her dangerous. They would try to kill her. Daniel knew this. Yet each night he let her hold him. Each night he taught her something new. Each night their bond grew stronger, and deep inside he wondered, what if she was not the only one? What if others of her kind wanted to learn too? What if this strange habit was only the beginning? As dawn returned and she placed him gently back on the bed, Daniel whispered once more, "Who are you?" His voice soft, desperate. But she only looked at him with those silver eyes, blinking once, then twice, as if to say, "I am trying," before vanishing into the mist. Daniel lay awake, trembling not with fear, but with the weight of discovery. He had uncovered the secret of her habit. She was not only holding him for comfort, she was holding him to become something more, something closer to human, and that truth was both beautiful and terrifying. The bond between Daniel and the alien girl grew in silence, but silence cannot last forever. People talk, people fear what they cannot understand, and soon the whole colony was whispering about Daniel and his nightly visitor. At first, the settlers only joked. They called him the toy boy. They laughed and said he had a girlfriend from the stars, but the laughter did not last. The colony was already struggling. Food was short. Machines broke faster than they could fix, and everyone carried fear of the aliens in their hearts. Daniel's strange connection became more than gossip. It became a threat. One evening, as Daniel repaired a broken water pump, a group of workers surrounded him, their faces tight with suspicion. One of them, a man named Harris, spoke with a sharp voice. "We know she comes for you every night." "You let her inside." Daniel froze. Tools heavy in his hands, Harris pointed at him. "She doesn't kill you. She doesn't touch anyone else. What did you promise her? What did you give her?" Daniel shook his head, his voice rough. "I gave her nothing. She doesn't want harm." But no one believed him. A woman spat on the ground, saying, "Aliens don't come without reason. If she's sparing you, then she's planning something worse for the rest of us." The whispers turned into warnings. The warnings into threats. Daniel's nights grew heavier, not only because of her visits, but because of the eyes watching him in daylight. That very night when the alien girl came, Daniel noticed his window had been marked with chalk, strange symbols drawn by fearful hands. It was a warning from the colonists, a sign that he was no longer trusted. As she lifted him gently into her arms, Daniel's chest tightened, not with fear of her, but with fear of what his people might do. They did not see the gentleness in her glowing eyes. They did not hear the way she tried to copy his lullabies. They saw only a danger wrapped in silver light. Daniel whispered into her chest. "They don't understand you," his words shaky. "They think you're here to spy, to hurt us." Her head tilted, her silver eyes blinked. She made a soft hum as if she could feel his worry. For the first time, Daniel's fear shifted again. It was no longer fear of her, it was fear for her. He knew the settlers would not stay silent. Sooner or later, they would act. The storm broke a few nights later. When Harris and a few others cornered Daniel outside his cabin, they carried tools sharpened like weapons. Their voices low and full of anger, Harris growled. "We won't let her take you anymore. If she comes tonight, we'll be ready. We'll kill her." Daniel's heart pounded. He wanted to argue, but no words would change their minds. They had already decided. To them, she was a monster, and he was her servant. That night, Daniel sat on his bed with dread burning in his chest. He heard the hum in the air, the silence that always came before her arrival. But this time, there was something else. The settlers hiding in the shadows, waiting with weapons, waiting for her. When she stepped into the room, tall and glowing, Daniel's breath caught. He whispered urgently, "Don't stay, don't come tonight." But she did not understand. Her silver eyes softened as she reached for him. The door burst open. Harris and the others charged in, shouting. Swinging their makeshift weapons, Daniel cried out, "Stop!" But the alien girl moved faster than anyone could see. She shielded him with her body. A bright flash of light filled the room as their tools struck her shimmering skin. The settlers stumbled back, blinded by the glow, their shouts turning to screams of fear. But when the light dimmed, they saw her still standing, holding Daniel close, unharmed, her eyes burning with something fierce. She did not attack, she did not strike back. She only wrapped her arms tighter around Daniel. Shielding him, the settlers fled in terror, leaving the door broken and the air thick with smoke. Daniel's heart thundered. He touched her arm, whispering, "You could have killed them, but you didn't." She looked at him, her glowing eyes softening again. She made the wave-like hum, a sound of calm, of choice. That was the moment Daniel understood the truth. She was not here as an enemy, not as a spy, not as a monster. She had chosen him not to harm but to hold, to protect, to learn. But the colony would never see it that way. The attack proved it from now on. They would not only fear her, they would hunt her, and Daniel stood caught between two worlds. When dawn came, she placed him on the bed as always. But she did not leave immediately. She lingered, her glowing eyes locked on his, as if asking him something without words. As if waiting for an answer, Daniel's throat tightened. His voice broke as he whispered, "I'll protect you too." She blinked once, twice, and then faded into the mist, leaving Daniel with the weight of his promise, a promise that would soon test his courage. The human reaction had come, and now the bond between Daniel and the alien girl was no longer a secret. It was a war waiting to begin. The night after the attack, Daniel could not rest. His body trembled with fear, but not fear of her, fear of his own people. The settlers had seen the alien girl's light. They had felt her strength, and now they would not stop. They would plan, they would return, and they would kill her if they could. But Daniel's heart carried something else too, a heavy question that had burned inside him for weeks. Why him? Why every night? Why did she hold him like a toy? Why did she never harm him? When the familiar silence fell and the air turned colder, he knew she was coming. This time he did not run. He did not hide. He sat upright on the bed, waiting, determined to find answers. She appeared as always, silver eyes glowing, tall frame bending under the roof, her body flickering faintly from the wounds of the last night. Daniel's chest tightened. She had shielded him and taken the blows meant for her. Still she came, still she reached for him, as her long fingers lifted him gently. Daniel whispered with a trembling voice, "Why me?" His words desperate. "Why do you come every night?" "What do you want from me?" For the first time, she did not stay silent. Her chest glowed faintly, and then a broken sound escaped her lips, strange, jagged, but almost human. "Safe," she whispered, the word cracked and uneven, but clear enough to freeze Daniel's heart. He stared at her, his breath catching. She had spoken. She had broken the silence. He whispered again, "Safe. You want to feel safe? Her silver eyes blinked slowly, her head tilted, and she repeated stronger this time. Safe, safe with you. Daniel's throat closed. His hand shook as he touched her glowing arm. All the fear, all the confusion, all the nights of silence came crashing together in that moment. She did not hold him to control him. She did not treat him like a toy for cruelty. She did it because it made her feel safe. More words stumbled from her lips, broken but heavy with meaning. Not enemy, not hurt. No kill. Her chest flickered as if each word cost her strength. Her glowing eyes dimmed. Alone? Daniel's eyes stung. He could hardly believe it. She was alone, an outcast, a stranger even among her own kind. She came to him not as a predator, but as someone seeking comfort, he whispered, his voice low and full of emotion. You chose me. You hold me because you trust me. She blinked once, slowly, then leaned her head closer until her forehead touched his, the same way she had done before, but now he understood. It was her way of showing trust. Daniel closed his eyes, whispering, You're not a monster. And she echoed softly, broken but clear, Not monster. The bond between them deepened in that moment. No longer only silence, no longer only mirrored actions. Now there were words, now there was truth. But outside the walls of his room, the colony grew restless. Torches burned in the night. Voices whispered of danger. Plans formed in the dark. The settlers would not forgive her presence. They would not accept her truth. They would only see her as a threat. Daniel knew it. He felt the weight of it pressing on him. And still he whispered to her, I'll protect you. His words shaky but firm. You're not alone anymore. Her silver eyes softened. A faint glow flickering in her chest, she repeated slowly, carefully, as if carving the words into her mind, not alone. The night passed with a different silence. Not the silence of mystery, but the silence of understanding. She no longer only held him like a toy. She held him like someone who mattered, someone she needed. When dawn arrived, she placed him on the bed as always, but before leaving, she spoke again, her voice trembling but stronger. Daniel, his name broken and heavy but real. His chest ached as he heard it. His name in her voice, she stepped into the mist, leaving him trembling, his heart torn between fear and wonder, his mind echoing her words, safe, not monster, alone. The truth had been revealed. She was not his captor, not his curse. She was his bond, his responsibility, and now his secret was heavier than ever, because secrets cannot stay hidden when a whole colony is ready to kill for their fear. Daniel sat in the silence of mourning, his body weak, his mind alive with fire. He knew the next part of the story would not be quiet. It would be a storm, and he would stand at the center of it, holding the truth in his hands. The morning after she spoke his name, Daniel could no longer hide the truth. His secret had grown too large. The colony was restless. Fear spread like fire. People wanted answers. They wanted safety, and to them, safety meant destroying the alien girl. Daniel walked through the dusty streets, eyes followed him from every doorway. Whispers cut through the air like knives. There he goes, some said. The boy she chose, others muttered. Traitor, he's protecting the monster. Daniel kept his head low, but his heart beat hard, because he knew what was coming that evening. The colony gathered in the old assembly hall, torches burning against the walls. Faces grim and angry, Harris stood in front, his voice loud and sharp. We cannot live like this. While one of us is marked by an alien, we are all in danger. Tonight we end it, the crowd roared with agreement. Fear turned into fury. Daniel rose, his voice unsteady but strong. You're wrong. She is not our enemy. The hall fell silent for a moment. Then filled with laughter and anger, Harris spat. She holds you every night like a toy, and you think she's not a danger. She's only waiting to strike. Daniel shook his head. His fists clenched. She spoke to me. His words made the crowd gasp. She told me she feels safe with me. She said she is not a monster. The settlers looked at each other in disbelief. Some muttered, some scoffed. Harris shouted, Lies, she's tricking you. And you're too blind to see it. But Daniel did not back down. He stepped forward, his voice rising. No, you're blind. You only see fear. You only see hate. But I see something else. I see trust. I see someone who could learn. Someone who could help us instead of destroy us. His words echoed. But the crowd's anger did not vanish. That night, as the moon rose, Daniel knew the settlers would come for her. They would set traps. They would bring weapons. They would try to end her. He sat in his room with dread burning in his chest, waiting. And then she appeared, silver eyes glowing softly, her tall frame filling the small room. Her voice broken but clear. Daniel, his name trembling but real. Daniel's throat tightened, he whispered. They know about you. They want to hurt you. She blinked slowly. Tilting her head, her voice cracked. Safe. With you. His eyes filled with tears. I can't let them hurt you, he whispered. But if I protect you, they'll see me as their enemy too. Her long hand touched his face, cold but gentle, and for a moment, Daniel forgot the fear outside. He only saw her silver eyes. Suddenly the door burst open. Harris and the others stormed in, weapons raised, their voices filled with rage. Step aside, Daniel, Harris growled. This ends now. Daniel stood tall, his body trembling, but his voice firm. No, the word cut the air like a blade. She is not your enemy, Harris shouted. She's an alien. She's a monster. Daniel shook his head, his chest burning with courage. No, she's more human than any of you right now. The settlers hesitated, their eyes wide with shock. The alien girl wrapped her arms around Daniel, shielding him, her body glowing brighter. But this time she did not stay silent. She raised her head and spoke in broken English, her voice echoing through the hall. Not monster, not enemy, safe. The crowd froze. Their weapons shook in their hands. They had never heard an alien speak their language. They had never heard one plead. Harris's face twisted with rage. It's a trick, he shouted. Kill it. But some settlers stepped back. Their fear mixed with doubt. Daniel's voice rang out, louder than ever. Listen to her. She had the chance to kill you. But she didn't. She protects me. She learns from me. She wants peace. Is that what a monster does? Silence fell heavy. The settlers looked at one another, torn between fear and the truth they could no longer deny. Harris roared in anger and raised his weapon. But before he could strike, another settler grabbed his arm. Enough, the man said, his voice shaking. What if the boy is right? What if she can change? The crowd murmured, the anger breaking apart. The alien girl's glow dimmed, her eyes fixed on Daniel. She whispered softly, not alone. Daniel smiled through his tears, his hand resting on hers. Never again. The settlers did not cheer. They did not embrace her, but they lowered their weapons. Fear still lingered, doubt still burned. But the choice had been made. They would not kill her, not yet. Daniel knew it was only the beginning. The path ahead would be hard, full of suspicion and danger, but he had chosen. He would stand by her, and she had chosen she would stand by him. That night ended not with blood, but with a fragile thread of hope, a bond between a human and an alien girl who once held him like a toy. Now she held him like something greater, a bridge between two worlds. And as the dawn broke over the colony, Daniel whispered to himself, humanity's choice is not fear, it is mercy, and he believed with all his heart that mercy would change everything.